The new APM Registered Project Professional Standard requires demonstration of competence within a complex project. So the word complex project is important here. This requires demonstration of competence in a complex project within the last 8 years. So you may have managed several complex projects, as long as one of those complex projects at least has taken place, at least in part, within the last 8 years. That will be okay. You may also have managed many non-complex projects. That's not a problem at all, and many of us will have managed some complex projects and some non-complex projects. For the purpose of evidence here, for the Registered Project Professional Standard, we're really focusing on the competences that you've demonstrated associated with a complex project. So what is a complex project? There's a number of factors to consider here. Firstly, it isn't just about the size of the project. In fact, a small project could be very complex. A large project could actually be non-complex. So be careful about looking at the size of the project. So let's talk about some of the other factors that should be considered in determining whether your project is complex. First of all, consider, for example, third parties, other organisations that are involved in the project. So are there several third parties, several suppliers, a number of contractors, a number of consultant organisations, client organisation, maybe some individual contractors? Is it quite a complex web of third party and different organisations involved? If it is, that is an indicator that contributes towards complexity. What about, secondly, stakeholder challenges? What are the stakeholder challenges? If there are quite a web of stakeholder challenges, perhaps conflicting requirements, perhaps very heavyweight, very senior stakeholders, very influential stakeholders that aren't all necessarily supportive of the project. And these could be internal to the organisation and perhaps also external to the organisation. So the more challenging the stakeholders, the more complicated the web of stakeholders involved, the greater the indicator towards complexity. And what about the context too within which the project is operating? Is this project delivering a huge change for the organisation? A huge change that will require winning hearts and minds around, or a huge change in the way of working for many staff or for many people? What about the cultural challenges, the social challenges, the geography challenges perhaps of the people involved in delivering the project or the people affected by the project? So these can be other factors that, again, the more complicated they are, the more complex the project is likely to be. So the contextual factors could be very important. The project delivery team, again, the structure of the project delivery team, the number of reporting lines, the coordination that's required, again linked into perhaps third parties, and the amount of coordination that's required here. The levels of communication and the different approaches to communication needed, internal or external to the organisation. The coordination of all those resources. Again, the more challenging this is, the more likely it is that this is an indicator towards a complex project. Also, what about risk level and the immediate issues and potential opportunities that could be exploited? If the risk level is very high, and it isn't clear as to what actions and what mitigation actions could be taken, and there's quite a substantial amount of risk around the project, then that could be, again, another indicator towards complexity. The level of innovation and creativity demanded by the project could also affect this. If it's a project that really hasn't been done before, or very infrequently before, then again, that could be another indicator to complexity where additional innovation, additional creativity is needed, and that could bring additional uncertainty around the project and more unknowns, again influencing the level of risk perhaps. So these are many of the factors that should be considered in trying to determine whether your project is relatively complex or not.